Welcome back. You're just in time for our conversation. But before we can get to the heart of the conversation, we always like to take a look at some of the stories making headlines on the local dailies. And in case you're just joining us, let me share with you our panel for this Friday morning. We have Rafton, aka Roy Smith. He is an artist, and of course, next to Rafton, we have Daisy Olo. She is in PR and comms for FIDA. I'm glad we have her here because she also helps us understand the legality of all these issues we're going through, as well as Suleiman Munya, aka Solo. He is a creative and a presenter. It's good to have all of you here this morning. Rafton, he's so confused.
Me guys, I don't know. My name is.
Would you like to take us
Let's
through
get straight into the papers. You turn to the front. We'll take you first to the front page of the Daily Nation. The big story there: crisis in Jubilee as factions pull apart. Succession politics and uncertainty in regard to outcome of handshake, with opposition leader Raila Odinga cited for failed elections and key meetings, but Secretary General Raphael Tuju shrugs off fears as not a priority. And at the top of the front page of the Daily Nation, the black hole exists. Here is the photo evidence. And until now, we've only been able to imagine what it might look like, but scientists have a picture. Very quickly, we also have a picture of former Garsen MP, Danson Mungatana, who faces accusations of stealing 51 million Kenya shillings. And of course, they were charged. He was one of those arraigned before a Malindi court yesterday. And Bashir, tyrant who did not see the end coming. And there's that picture of Bashir talking about the writing on the wall. It's a cartoon looking at the wall as at other leaders whose regimes collapsed, and you know, before his.
He's just collapsed, what, 10 days after Bouteflika also decided, what, I'm done, I'm down, after also pressure from Algerians who also took it to the streets. So it's been quite a heavy month. Someone
had a very interesting expression. There are times when nothing happens in decades, but there are other times when in a week or two, decades happens.
Right?
Yeah, literally, like history is changed completely.
In 9 days.
Completely different direction. Right. Standard. What we got?
The Standard newspaper. My 2 billion Kenyan shillings is not fake. Give it back. That's according to Eric Adede. That's
Solo is very amused by that. We'll find out why shortly.
So he says that on March 19th, detectives raided a bank in the city and seized the fake dollars. But the owner, Eric Adede, says, or rather he told the court, listen, the cash was genuine. And of course, and they're also still going around with a big story. Another African, the strongman, falls and detained Omar al-Bashir, who had defied the world and been on the run for years from the ICC that wanted him for war crimes. Did you see the picture of the lady, Alassa, even remember her name?
She's now globally famous.
Right?
Yes.
She's at the center of this revolution at only 22 years old.
Revolution is not just male-driven.
No, it's not.
Strong female voices and faces in Sudan, sending a strong message around the world.
I think we should start with that. Daisy, I want to come to you because Daisy's like,
She's already cheering and very excited.
Right. So, Daisy, just your general thoughts about what has been happening in Sudan for the past, let's say, a week, because it's actually a day like this on Friday that they went to the streets and said they camped there, they watched yesterday's match from there. Families and even business people were offering food and items to people, saying, listen, this is enough. And it all started because of the price of bread.
Right. You know, it really excited me to see a woman at the forefront, elevated among people, you know, shouting and saying, this is the revolution that we want. It really got me excited because it gives Kenyans hope that, you know, it's not just about men. You know, we live in a very patriarchal society. Africa is. But this lady defied odds, you know, and came out to say, it's time to take matters into our own hands. And it's an example for us as Kenyans. You don't have to sit on you don't have to sit and wait for, you know, somebody out there to save you as a woman. You have the potential and the power to do so.
You have the potential and power to do so. So let me come to you. What lessons do you think African leaders should learn from what we've seen in Sudan, in Algeria? And what lessons do you think African people, the people who, you know, day to day try to make a living, sometimes with, you know, very little money, at their disposal, what lessons do you think they should also learn from this?
I think one of those things is that a lot of governments have taken advantage of their people. They've done things, and because there are people on positions of power, you've never been accountable. Now, a lot of leaders are finding themselves accountable to the people that they represented. When the people actually decide, you know what, enough is enough, it's like a donkey. You take it, you force it to carry your load, but when it decides enough is enough, that is it. And as she said, I think for me it was not even the part that she got up onto a stage and talked to people. It's the fact that people actually stopped to listen to her. It shows that just because you're seated somewhere and you've got all these ideas, it doesn't mean that you should sit on them. It means you should put them out there. Let people know. Speak your voice. Let your voice be heard. The internet has done that for us. It's given us an opportunity to be whatever we want to be. So for a lot of people, I think in Kenya we call them Twitter warriors, who are very fast to critique whatever it is that they want. But a time comes when the leadership has to listen to the people, to the voice of the people, to the mood of the people. I mean, Kenyans are suffering, I'll not lie. We're not very happy. I mean, these billions that we keep on hearing about every day, people are sitting and calculating and saying, if you divided this between all of us, or if this was put to a certain development, to a certain project, I would see the roads finished, I would see medicine in clinics, I would see things that could actually trickle down to... I don't understand why Turkana should have issues of starvation. I mean, it's a very vast area. If you've been there before, I went there, I think, last year. And let me tell you, the biggest thing these people want is just clean water.
Clean water.
Clean water, just something for them to drink, for their animals. But when we've got billions of shillings in one person's account and we do not know how they acquired them.
What's your warning to Kenya's political class with what we are seeing
I'll not issue a warning, but I'll just tell them it's nice for them to step out of the office, take a walk through the streets of Nairobi, visit your electorate, listen to the people. Because I can assure you they've got a lot to tell you.
They've got a lot to tell you. Rafton, let's get your thoughts on what's happening, whether Algeria, Sudan, and Kenya,
For me, my take is there's a very strong message from, I'll credit the young people. I remember when I was younger, our parents could not even talk about the government in power. Even in pubs and in churches, it's like there's a spy, universal spy watching over and listening and
so
taking that
home,
message. Even at
where
home,
you're with your family,
even
someone can
my
sell
uncle,
you out.
Somebody cannot talk about the government. It's like there are spies all over. But the young people are telling the governments in power that we are independent, we are liberal, and we are connected. We have a network through the social platform. You can even take an example of what happened just the other by-election, just the other day. You could tell if it were like 10 years back, you know how the election would have gone. But we're having a situation whereby young people have grown seeing their parents. I saw another political analyst saying we are sheeples, we are sheeps being led by the dynasties. But now the young people are saying, I'm not a sheep anymore. I have my own independent mind and I'm going to make a decision. You can hear what Solo has just said. I remember watching young people in Turkana. They were very eloquent when they were going against. There's a time oil was just being taken from Turkana, being taken to Mombasa, and they came, blocked the tracks. They said, and they were eloquent. They were speaking in English. Turkana young people saying, no, this is our oil. We need to know how we'll benefit from it directly. So to the powers that are there, the dynasties, I will tell them, as Sola has put it, young people are tired. Don't provoke them any further because you'll be surprised.
Let's stick on that for just a minute. And I will throw back the ball to Solo because you're the one who really brought it out a lot. You look at the African youth population. Africa's youth makes about, 19% of the global population. Statistics show like by 2030, about people between the ages of, 40 to 24 will make about 42% of the youth population in Africa. We've even been referred to as either an opportunity or a ticking time bomb. Are not just Kenyan youth, but youth in Africa in general, tired of the old system, of the way of doing things? There seems to be a push.
Let's put it like this. We've been born listening or hearing certain names in politics, for example. Same names since we were kids, and we were told tomorrow is for the young. Well, tomorrow is today. And we still have the same people in office. I mean, that should just tell you something. We've had 4 transitions in Kenya. Transitions, but the thing is, listen, we're just changing things at the top. What's happening to the things in the middle? And what's happening to the systems? How are the youth benefiting? I mean, we've heard of the Youth Fund and many other funds that have come in to try and help uplift the youth. But are they really getting to the youth? Or is it the youth again? Because let's face it, I mean, you get to a point where the youth have been pushed so hard to the wall. Right now, they're jobless. Many of them have gone to school. They've got a degree. You finish school, you don't get a job, you go get a master's. You don't have the experience that is needed. And then when it comes to applying for jobs, it's all about canvassing. It's me to give my cousins and all the nepotism that you bring in your relatives and your friends. So the opportunities are not there anymore. Yet that these guys who've been sitting on these opportunities that are meant for us. When people, for example, loot a ministry or a parastatal, do they think about the effects that it's happening in the grassroots? All these people who would have benefited from these projects are not able to benefit from them anymore. When projects, I'm sorry to say this, but when projects are given to foreigners, for example, who employ their own, what happens to those of us who've studied in the same line? I'm an engineer, I've studied, I'm waiting for a job. I cannot get a job because a certain project has been given to certain individuals from a different country. They're not going to employ Kenyans, they want to employ their own. So where are the opportunities for us as the young?
Okay. Daisy, even as you respond to what he said, I saw you looking at this story of my 2 billion is real, not fake, give it back, and you just shook your head. You wanna let us in on what was going on in your mind as...
At what point did investigators realize that this money was fake? And at that point, what did they do with it? If the owner comes to say it is real money, what was the intention of the investigators? What are they planning to do with the money? Can they just come out and say clearly, we suspect that this gentleman is doing X and Y and Z, money laundering, if at all, and then tell us that his money has been acquired fraudulently and therefore we are holding it back? Instead of saying it's fake bills, what are we saying?
The story behind
honestly,
the story.
yeah, what are we saying? You know, and even just for us to sit back and say, oh, it's okay, let him be prosecuted, let him be accused of what he's being accused of. I mean, come on, Kenyans, it's time for us to stand up for one another. If we feel that a Kenyan is being denied justice based on whatever reason, I think it's time for us to stand up. And of course, leading up to our discussion that we're going to have later, I think that's one of the things that we need to do as a society, to be conscious that as a people, we have a responsibility to one another. You know, let's take it up seriously and forge and move forward to see that we have access to justice, for crying out loud, and we are not being oppressed. Actually, I think that's the word, that we're not being oppressed by the systems of power. Because this is really painful for me. If at all this gentleman has worked hard for his money that is now being seized and called fake bills, honestly, where does that leave him? You go back to squares one.
And speaking of working hard for your money, I mean, Rafton, because of your personality, you're able to interact a lot with young people. Do they feel as if Kenya is for them, that Kenya favors them? A majority of Kenyans are living from hand to mouth. Young people feel oppressed. They can't get jobs. Here you are, you have a degree in engineering, but jobs none. And it has been fed to you since you're young. You know what? Go to school, get into your good university, get a good job. But that's not the case. The system seems to be lying to young people.
According to statistics, we have like 8.4 Kenyans who are unemployed, and you can
8.4%.
8.4 million.
8.4 million
Kenyans who are unemployed, and majority are young people. So the youth are feeling like they're in this desert, and there's this chopper with cold water flying above them every time. They can see it, but they can't drink it. So for me, again, I'll appeal to the politicians for them to realize that the voters are tired, who majority are young people. They have network, and again, they learned from their parents. They saw how the system frustrated them when they were young, and they are saying that blade is not gonna cut my neck. I saw it with my dad, I saw it with my uncle, I saw it with my, my village, so to speak. So that one, I'm not gonna do it. So for me, I would say if you're a politician or you're a leader, you need to come back to the table and realize whatever is happening all over Africa, you are seeing the dictators being rejected by the young people. If you don't change now, it will be unfortunate. The time is just around the corner. You better act now.
You better act now.
That's my